Your body holds the memory of every kindness you couldn't give yourself today, every word left unspoken, every breath held too long. But here, in this sacred pause, even memories can rest. Feel how your shoulders have been carrying conversations that never happened, how your chest has been guarding against disappointments that may never come. The evening air touches your skin like a gentle reminder that you have arrived somewhere safe. Your heartbeat slows, finding its natural rhythm beneath all the borrowed urgencies of the day. There is something in the darkness that knows you better than the daylight ever could, a tenderness that asks nothing of you except permission to be present. Let your body sink a little deeper into whatever supports you now. The weight you've been holding doesn't have to define this moment. Here, in the quiet space between what was and what will be, your weary soul begins to remember. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to simply be held by the night's quiet mercy without earning it, without proving anything at all. You arrived here after a day that asked more of you than you knew how to give. Perhaps you smiled when your heart wanted to retreat. Perhaps you said yes when your spirit whispered no. The hours stretched like elastic bands, and you bent with them, accommodating, adapting, until even your bones felt tired of holding you upright. Now the day has released its grip, and you find yourself in this moment, not because you planned it, but because something deeper than planning brought you here. Your body remembers this place, even if your mind doesn't recognize it yet. This is the threshold where exhaustion transforms into something else entirely. Think of a river that has traveled far from its mountain source. By evening, it no longer rushes with the urgency of morning. Instead, it moves with the wisdom of water that knows its destination. You are like this river now, still moving, but with a different quality of flow. The jagged edges of the day begin to smooth as you settle into this quiet current. There is an invisible temple that exists wherever you are willing to acknowledge the sacred in the ordinary. It has no fixed address, no visiting hours, no admission requirements. It appears when you stop running from the weight of being human and start walking toward the mystery of being held. Tonight, this temple materializes around you like morning mist, subtle but undeniably present. Your breath becomes the first offering at this temple's altar. Not the breath you've been holding all day, tight with anticipation and worry, but the breath that knows how to receive as well as give. Inhale slowly, drawing in more than air, drawing in the permission to be exactly as you are in this moment. Exhale, releasing more than carbon dioxide, releasing the day's accumulated tension, the small disappointments, the efforts that felt like pushing water uphill. Consider how your body has been your most faithful companion today. It carried you through conversations that drained you, supported you through decisions that felt impossible, kept your heart beating even when your spirit felt scattered. Your body held space for every emotion you couldn't fully express, every fear you couldn't voice, every hope you were afraid to claim. It has been both sanctuary and vehicle, both temple and pilgrim. Now, as you settle into stillness, your body begins to remember its deeper purpose. It is not merely a machine for productivity or a container for stress. It is the sacred ground where your soul has chosen to experience this brief, precious existence. Every cell contains not just biological information, but the accumulated wisdom of countless moments of resilience, adaptation, and grace. The temple that surrounds you now is built from your willingness to honor this truth. Its walls are made of acceptance, its roof of surrender, its foundation of deep, patient breathing. You don't have to construct this temple. You only have to recognize that it has been here all along, waiting for you to stop moving long enough to notice. In the corners of this invisible sanctuary, old tensions begin to soften like candle wax. The tight places in your neck and shoulders start to remember what it feels like to hang loose, supported by something larger than your own effort. Your jaw unclenches, your forehead smooths, your belly softens into the rhythm of breath that asks for nothing but permission to continue. What would it mean to trust that this moment is enough? Not as preparation for something better, not as recovery from something worse, but as complete in itself, a whole universe contained in the simple fact of your breathing body, your aware presence, your willingness to be here now. The day's stories begin to lose their urgent grip on your attention. The phone calls that felt so important, the tasks that seemed critical, the worries that loomed so large, they don't disappear, but they settle into proper proportion. They become part of the background music of a life lived fully, rather than the demanding symphony that drowns out everything else. You are not abandoning your responsibilities by resting here. You are not betraying your commitments by allowing yourself this pause. You are remembering the source from which all genuine action flows, the still, clear space of your own presence, unadorned by roles or expectations or the need to be anywhere other than exactly here. In this invisible temple, time moves differently. Minutes stretch like honey, thick and golden with presence. You have nowhere to go, nothing to prove, no one to become. You can let your awareness settle into the simple miracle of being alive in a body that breathes, a heart that beats, a mind that can choose to rest in wonder rather than worry. The temple doors are always open, but they can only be entered by those who remember that they are already inside. The doorway between waking and deeper rest opens slowly, like morning glory flowers that know their own timing. You don't have to force this opening, you only have to stop resisting it. Your body already knows how to cross this threshold. It has been practicing since the day you were born, learning the ancient art of letting go. Think of the way rain finds its path down a mountainside. It doesn't struggle against the rocks or argue with gravity. It simply follows the natural channels, gathering momentum as it moves towards something larger than itself. Your transition into rest follows this same organic wisdom, flowing around the obstacles of lingering thoughts, finding the easiest route toward stillness. The sacred threshold you approach now has been crossed by countless souls before you. Each person who has ever felt too tired to continue, too overwhelmed to think clearly, too emptied to give more, they have all found their way to this same doorway. You join an invisible community of weary travelers who understand that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stop trying so hard. There is something profound about acknowledging that you don't have to carry everything alone. The day's conversations, decisions, and concerns can rest now in the larger hands of night, of time, of the mysterious intelligence that keeps your heart beating without your conscious effort. You can trust these deeper currents to hold what you cannot. Your breathing becomes a bridge between the world you're leaving and the sanctuary you're entering. Each inhale draws you slightly deeper into your body's wisdom. Each exhale releases another thread of connection to the day's demanding energy. You're not cutting these threads with violence or rejection. You're simply letting them go slack, allowing them to rest. In your own life, you've experienced moments when the boundary between effort and grace dissolves. Perhaps while walking in nature, your footsteps found a rhythm that felt effortless. Perhaps while listening to music, your breathing synchronized with melodies that seemed to breathe you rather than the other way around. This crossing into rest carries that same quality of natural flow. Consider the wise patience of trees preparing for night. They don't announce their intention to rest or apologize for their need to cease photosynthesis. They simply allow their leaves to soften in the gathering darkness, their roots to settle deeper into earth that has supported countless seasons of growth and rest. You can borrow this tree wisdom now, letting your own roots sink into the support that surrounds you. The temple you're entering exists in the space between your thoughts. It's not a place you travel to, but a dimension you remember. It has been there during every moment of your life when you felt held by something larger than your individual will, during childhood nights when sleep came easily, during times of deep absorption in meaningful work, during moments of unexpected peace that arrived like gifts. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future chapters, and share in the comments how you're feeling. Your shoulders carry the invisible weight of all the care you've extended to others today. The concern for family members, the attention given to colleagues, the energy spent on tasks both meaningful and mundane. Your shoulders have been the steady scaffolding supporting these acts of love and responsibility. Now they can lower just slightly, as you remember that caring doesn't always require such vigilant tension. What if the love you've been giving to others all day could now flow back toward you? Not as reward or compensation, but as the natural circulation of energy that knows no true separation between giving and receiving. The kindness you offered to the friend who needed listening, the patience you showed to the child who tested boundaries, the grace you extended to the stranger who moved too slowly, all of this returns to you now as the universe's own kindness. Your chest, which has been guarding your heart through a day of varied encounters, can soften its protective stance. The heart it protects is stronger than you sometimes remember, resilient enough to stay open even in difficulty, wise enough to close when genuine danger appears. But here, in this threshold space, your heart can rest in its own natural expansion, beating not just for survival but for the quiet joy of being alive. The doorway you're crossing leads not away from your life, but deeper into its essential mystery. You're not escaping your humanity, you're settling into its sacred dimension. Every breath you take in this liminal space connects you more intimately with the source of your own being, the still center that exists beneath all the movement of days and years. Think of how water finds its level, flowing from higher ground to lower ground until it comes to rest in perfect equilibrium. Your spirit seeks this same natural settling, flowing from the elevated tensions of daily effort toward the level ground of simple presence. This is not collapse, but arrival, the recognition of where you truly belong. The ancient threshold you cross tonight has been worn smooth by millions of footsteps. Warriors and mothers, artists and laborers, children and elders, all have passed this way, moving from the marketplace of daytime consciousness into the sanctuary of deeper rest. You walk this well-traveled path now, supported by the invisible presence of all who have found renewal in surrender. Soon you will pass completely through this doorway. But for now, you can rest in the threshold itself, in the sweet space between effort and ease. Between the day's stories and night's deeper truth, the armor you wear is invisible to mirrors but felt by every muscle in your body. It was forged not in ancient smithies, but in moments when you learned that softness could be mistaken for weakness. When you discovered that the world sometimes rewards those who appear invulnerable. This armor served you well during the day's battles, but now, in the sanctuary of this moment, it has become too heavy to carry. Like a knight returning from a long campaign, you can begin the gentle process of removal. This is not defeat, but wisdom. The recognition that protection and openness serve different purposes, and that true strength lies in knowing when each is needed. Your body holds the memory of putting on this armor piece by piece throughout the day. Now it can remember how to set it down. Consider how a tree sheds its leaves not in failure, but in preparation for deeper seasons. Each fallen leaf carried the tree through months of growth and photosynthesis. But when autumn arrives, the tree releases what no longer serves its current phase of being. Your daily armor, the vigilant attention, the careful responses, the readiness for challenge has carried you faithfully through today's requirements. Now you can let it fall away like leaves returning to earth. The armor of your shoulders is woven from all the times you braced yourself for criticism, prepared for disappointment, or steeled yourself against rejection. Feel how these protective layers have created a second skin, so familiar you might have forgotten your body's natural texture beneath them. As you breathe deeply, imagine this shoulder armor dissolving like morning frost touched by gentle sunlight, not torn away, but transformed back into the mist from which it came. Your chest wears the armor of controlled breathing, the careful regulation of emotion that kept you steady through difficult conversations and challenging moments. This breastplate of composure served you well, but now your ribs can expand fully. Your heart can beat with its own natural rhythm, rather than the measured cadence of careful self-management. Let your chest remember what it feels like to breathe without strategy, to simply receive air as a gift. In your daily life, you've experienced moments when this armor fell away naturally, perhaps while watching a sunset that caught you by surprise, or during laughter that bubbled up from some unguarded place within you. In those moments, you discovered that your unarmored self is not fragile but vibrant, not vulnerable but vibrantly alive. This same unguarded aliveness waits for you now. The armor around your throat is made of words you didn't say, truths you kept carefully measured, responses you crafted rather than simply offering. Your voice, which has been filtered through layers of consideration and social navigation, can now rest in its natural register. Even in silence, your throat can soften, releasing the tension of constant translation between inner truth and outer appropriateness. Think of how water moves when it encounters no resistance, not with the force needed to break through barriers, but with the fluid grace of finding the most natural path. As your armor dissolves, your energy can flow with this same organic ease, no longer channeled through the narrow passages of protective strategies, but moving freely through the open landscape of your relaxed body. Your face carries perhaps the most complex armor of all, the expressions you've maintained to communicate safety, competence, and appropriate emotion to the world around you. Your jaw, which has held back words that felt too raw, can unclench. Your forehead, which has organized itself into patterns of concern and concentration, can smooth into its natural contours. Your eyes, which have focused outward all day in vigilant attention, can soften their gaze. The process of removing armor is not about becoming defenseless. It's about remembering the difference between appropriate protection and habitual guarding. A wise warrior knows that armor worn too long begins to limit movement, that the very protection meant to preserve life can begin to constrain it. In the safety of this invisible temple, you can practice being undefended without being endangered. What would it feel like to move through the world without the weight of constant preparation for difficulty? Not naively unaware of life's genuine challenges, but grounded in the confidence that you can meet what comes without advance rehearsals of defense. This confidence doesn't come from becoming harder, but from discovering the resilient flexibility of your unarmored essence. Your hands, which have gripped things tightly all day, steering wheels, door handles, phones, other people's problems, can open like flowers, responding to morning light. Feel how your fingers naturally curve when they're not holding anything, how your palms can rest open without grasping. This openness in your hands reflects the larger opening happening throughout your body as protection gives way to receptivity. The removal of invisible armor reveals the tender strength that has been there all along. The capacity to be deeply affected by beauty, to be moved by kindness, to respond authentically to life's varied offerings. This tenderness is not weakness, but the most refined form of courage, the willingness to remain responsive in a world that often rewards numbness. As each piece of armor falls away, you don't become smaller, but more spacious. Without the rigid boundaries of constant protection, your awareness can expand to fill the natural dimensions of your being. You discover that you are larger than your defenses ever allowed you to know, more resilient than your armor ever made you feel. The ground beneath the fallen armor is soft and welcoming, ready to receive what you no longer need to carry. In the deepest chamber of this invisible temple sits a presence that has been waiting for you longer than memory can reach. This is not a stranger, but the most intimate companion you've never properly met. The one who has witnessed every breath you've taken, every dream you've dreamed, every moment of joy and sorrow that has shaped your journey. This presence doesn't speak in words, but in the language of pure understanding. Imagine an ancient keeper of a lighthouse who has tended the same beacon for decades, watching countless ships navigate safely home through storms and calm seas alike. This temple keeper carries that same quality of patient vigilance, having watched over the harbor of your inner life through all its seasons. Their eyes hold no judgment, only the deep recognition that comes from having seen everything and found it all worthy of love. You don't approach this presence. You discover that you've been walking toward it all your life. Every moment of genuine peace you've ever experienced, every instant when you felt truly seen and accepted, every breath that came easily without effort, these were glimpses of this eternal companion who has never left your side. Now, in the sanctuary of conscious rest, you can finally sit together in acknowledged presence. The temple keeper's welcome is wordless but unmistakable. It arrives as a settling in your nervous system, a softening around your heart, a sense that you can finally stop trying to manage every detail of your existence. This presence doesn't offer advice or solutions, but something far more precious, the experience of being, completely known and completely accepted exactly as you are. In your own life, you've felt touches of this unconditional welcome. Perhaps in the eyes of someone who loved you before you learned to doubt yourself. Perhaps in moments alone in nature when the trees and sky seem to recognize you as family. Perhaps in the quiet after meditation or prayer when your striving mind stepped aside and something vast and gentle stepped forward. This temple keeper embodies that same quality of recognition. Consider how a mother bird doesn't teach her young to be worthy of the nest. She simply provides it as their natural birthright. The temple keeper's presence carries this same assumption of your inherent belonging. You don't have to earn this welcome through good behavior or spiritual achievement. You don't have to prove your worthiness through suffering or service. You belong here simply because you exist. The keeper's presence emanates the deepest form of hospitality, the kind that asks nothing of the guest except their willingness to receive care. Your role here is not to perform or achieve, but simply to allow yourself to be tended to by this ancient wisdom that has been guarding the doorway between effort and grace throughout your entire existence. Your breathing synchronizes with something larger than your individual rhythm. Each inhale brings you into deeper communion with this witnessing presence. Each exhale releases another layer of the isolation that comes from believing you must navigate life's challenges entirely through your own resources. You remember what it feels like to be held by intelligence that surpasses your own understanding. The temple keeper sees through all the roles you've played today: the competent professional, the caring friend, the responsible adult, the person who has everything figured out. Beneath these necessary social identities, they recognize the eternal child who still wonders at the mystery of existence. The ageless soul who has been seeking home throughout every adventure and misadventure of this lifetime. What would it mean to rest in this recognition? Not to abandon your adult responsibilities or your genuine care for others, but to remember that these roles arise from something more fundamental: your basic aliveness, your inherent capacity for love, your natural belonging to the web of existence that needs no justification or explanation. In the keeper's presence, your timeline becomes fluid. The you who struggled through difficult years and the you who celebrated moments of triumph are equally held in this compassionate awareness. The mistakes you've made and the kindnesses you've offered are seen as equally valuable threads in the tapestry of a life fully lived. Nothing needs to be edited or explained. Everything belongs. The keeper's eyes reflect back to you something you might have forgotten in the days. Busyness, that you are not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Your questions don't need immediate answers. Your longings don't require instant fulfillment. Your confusion doesn't demand immediate clarity. You can rest in the spaciousness of not knowing while trusting the deeper intelligence that guides your path. This witnessing presence doesn't offer teaching in the conventional sense, but their very being instructs you in the art of unconditional presence. They show you how to sit with whatever arises without the need to fix, change, or improve it. They demonstrate the difference between the love that demands transformation and the love that creates the safety within which natural transformation can occur. As you settle more deeply into this recognition, you begin to understand that this temple keeper has never been separate from you. They are not an external source of wisdom, but the deepest layer of your own being, the part of you that has remained untouched by life's complications. the essence that has watched your entire story unfold with infinite patience and unconditional love. The Keeper's silent welcome continues to radiate through the temple chambers, preparing the way for even deeper layers of rest and recognition. Your body is not just flesh and bone, but a living map of sacred geography, each region holding its own ancient wisdom and secret stories. Like explorers discovering a new continent, you can begin to traverse the mysterious landscape of your own physical being, finding mountains of strength in your spine, rivers of sensation flowing through your limbs, and hidden valleys of tenderness, waiting to be honored with gentle attention. The peaks of your shoulders rise like foothills, leading to the great mountain range of your neck and skull. These elevated places have carried so much: the weight of worry, the burden of decision-making, the accumulated tension of 1,000 small moments when you held yourself ready for whatever might come next. Now you can explore these highlands with the curiosity of a pilgrim rather than the urgency of a soldier, discovering what lies beneath the familiar patterns of holding. Your spine forms the central axis of this inner continent, a graceful curve that speaks of your body's magnificent engineering and its patient accommodation to gravity's demands. Each vertebra is like a stepping stone in a sacred path, connecting the earthy wisdom of your pelvis to the sky-reaching awareness of your crown. Feel how this central column has supported not just your physical weight, but the invisible burden of consciousness itself, the remarkable feat of being awake inside matter. In your daily experience, you've noticed how different emotions seem to live in different regions of your body. Anxiety often visits the throat and chest. Excitement bubbles up from the belly. Sadness can settle in the shoulders like a heavy cloak. Your body has been hosting these various energetic weather patterns all day, providing shelter for every feeling that needed a place to exist. Now you can appreciate this generous hospitality your flesh has offered to your emotional life. The valleys of your body, the soft spaces behind your knees, the gentle curves where your arms meet your torsos, the tender hollow at the base of your throat. These are the places where stress often pools like water, gathering in low places after rain. But tonight, these same valleys can become repositories for peace, natural basins where calm can collect and deepen as you breathe into these receptive spaces. Consider how a gardener learns to read the subtle signs of soil and season, understanding which areas need tending and which are ready for rest. Your internal landscape reveals similar patterns when you approach it with this same quality of patient observation. Some areas feel tight and defended, like gardens that have been working too hard. Others feel neglected, like wild spaces that have been overlooked in the day's busy cultivation of more obviously productive regions. Your arms and hands form the reaching branches of this embodied tree, extensions that have spent the day grasping, typing, gesturing, embracing, constantly extending your inner life into the outer world through touch and action. These limbs have been translators between intention and manifestation, carrying out the 1,000 small acts through which you've participated in the day's collaborative dance of human activity. The torso forms the trunk of this living geography, containing the vital organs that have maintained your life without conscious direction. Your heart has beaten approximately 100,000 times since you woke this morning. Your lungs have processed thousands of breaths. Your digestive system has transformed food into energy with the patient alchemy of biological wisdom. This central region of your body has been quietly miraculous all day long. Your legs and feet are the roots of this sacred anatomy, the foundation that has carried you through countless steps, upstairs, across thresholds, from room to room and moment to moment. They have negotiated with sidewalks and carpets, adapted to shoes and surfaces, maintained your balance through the subtle adjustments that keep a two-legged creature upright in a world governed by gravity's inexorable pull. What would it mean to inhabit this geography with the reverence due to holy ground? Not to worship the body as an idol, but to recognize it as the temporary temple it truly is, the earthly sanctuary, where your consciousness has chosen to experience this particular lifetime. Every sensation, every breath, every heartbeat is a prayer being offered in the cathedral of your flesh. The mapping of this inner landscape reveals territories you might have forgotten in the day's focus on external navigation. The small of your back, which has been quietly supporting your upright passage through the world. The curve of your rib cage, which has been creating space for breath and protecting the soft organs of life. The joints where bones meet bones, those engineering marvels that have facilitated every movement with fluid precision. As you explore this sacred geography with gentle attention, you begin to notice that each region has its own quality of aliveness, its own way of participating in the larger symphony of embodied existence. Some areas sing with vibrant energy, others hum with quiet contentment, still others rest in profound stillness. All are equally valuable notes in the complex composition of your physical being. The wisdom contained in this bodily landscape is older than your thinking mind, deeper than your emotional patterns, more fundamental than your personality traits. It is the accumulated intelligence of countless generations of ancestors who survived long enough to pass on the genetic inheritance that became your particular flesh. Your body carries the memory of their resilience, their adaptation, their triumph over difficulties you can barely imagine. This exploration of your inner geography naturally leads toward an even deeper recognition of the miracle that houses your awareness within matter. At the very center of your inner temple burns a flame unlike any other, not the restless fire of ambition or the consuming blaze of passion, but a gentle presence that listens with the patience of eternity. This candle exists in the space between your thoughts, in the pause between heartbeats, in the still point where all the day's scattered energies can finally converge and find their home in simple awareness. This flame doesn't flicker with the nervous energy of ordinary candles. It burns with the steady radiance of something that has never doubted its own existence, never questioned its right to illuminate the darkness, never worried about running out of fuel. It is fed not by wax or oil, but by the very fact of your conscious presence, growing brighter as you settle deeper into the recognition of your own aware aliveness. Think of how a lighthouse keeper tends their beacon through the longest nights, never doubting that ships will find their way to safety by following that unwavering light. Your inner flame serves this same function for all the scattered aspects of your being. The worried thoughts, the tender feelings, the tired muscles, the restless dreams, they all navigate by this central radiance, finding their way home to the peaceful harbor of your integrated presence. In your own experience, you've felt this flame's presence during moments of deep concentration, when time seemed to slow and the boundaries between you and your activity dissolved. Perhaps while reading a beloved book, your attention became so absorbed that you forgot about your physical surroundings. Perhaps while listening to music, your awareness merged so completely with the melodies that thinking mind stepped aside. This candle flame is the constant source of that focused, peaceful attention. The flame listens not with ears, but with the entire field of its luminous presence. It receives the day's stories without judgment, allowing each experience to pass through its light like shadows moving across a wall. The difficult conversation that drained your energy, the moment of unexpected beauty that lifted your spirits, the small frustration that lingered longer than it needed to, all are equally welcomed in this flame's patient witness. Consider how water becomes perfectly still in a deep well, no longer disturbed by surface winds or passing storms. Your awareness, when it settles around this central flame, takes on this same quality of undisturbed clarity. The mental chatter that has accompanied you through the day begins to quiet, not through force or suppression, but through the natural settling that occurs when attention finds its true resting place. Your breathing becomes synchronized with this flame's steady radiance. Each inhale draws you deeper into its luminous presence. Each exhale releases another layer of the effortful activity that has characterized your day. You begin to understand that you don't have to maintain this flame through your own energy. It maintains itself, and your only role is to remember its presence and allow it to illuminate whatever needs to be seen. The candle that listens reveals the difference between the awareness that grasps and the awareness that simply receives. All day, your attention has been reaching outward, focusing on tasks, problems, other people's needs, external demands. This flame offers a different kind of attention, one that creates space rather than pursuing objects, one that welcomes whatever appears rather than selecting what deserves notice. In this flame's presence, your internal dialogue begins to transform. The voice in your head that has been commenting, planning, worrying, and analyzing discovers that it doesn't have to work so hard. Like a radio that has been playing static all day suddenly finding a clear station. Your mental activity settles into a more harmonious frequency when it aligns with this central stillness. What would it mean to trust this flame's listening presence with the tender places in your heart? The disappointments you haven't fully processed, the hopes you've been afraid to acknowledge, the grief that has been waiting patiently for your attention, all can be offered to this patient witness that transforms nothing but illuminates everything with the light of compassionate awareness. The flame's listening extends beyond the contents of your mind to include the wisdom of your body. It hears the language your muscles speak when they're tired, the messages your breath carries about your emotional state, the subtle communications from organs that have been working faithfully all day without conscious recognition. This comprehensive listening creates a bridge between the different levels of your being. Your heart, which has been pumping blood through thousands of miles of vessels all day, begins to synchronize its rhythm with this flame's steady presence, not slowing down in a way that would compromise its vital function, but settling into a deeper cadence that reflects the peace of no longer having to maintain vigilant readiness for emergency. Your heart remembers how to beat, not just for survival, but for the quiet joy of sustained aliveness. The candle's flame reveals that listening is not a passive activity, but the most refined form of attention, a way of being present that creates the conditions within which truth can emerge naturally. In this quality of listening presence, you don't have to figure anything out or solve any problems. You can simply rest in the spacious awareness that has room for everything and resistance to nothing. As you settle deeper into this flame's patient witness, you begin to recognize that this listening presence has been available throughout your entire life, waiting patiently through all the periods when you were too busy or distracted to notice. It has been the constant backdrop against which all your experiences have unfolded, the unchanging awareness within which all change occurs. The flame continues its gentle work of transformation through pure presence, preparing the ground for even deeper layers of release and recognition. There is a stream that flows through the deepest chambers of your inner temple, not water you can see or touch, but something more essential than H2O, more cleansing than any earthly river. These are the waters of memory, carrying away the accumulated sediment of experiences that have settled too heavily in the quiet pools of your consciousness, washing clean the channels through which your natural aliveness wants to flow. This stream moves with the unhurried persistence of all natural water systems, following the ancient law that what falls must eventually find its way to the sea. The tensions you've been holding, the small resentments that have calcified around old hurts, the worries that have been circulating through your mental landscape, like debris caught in an eddy, all of this can be released into the patient current that knows exactly where everything belongs. Imagine standing ankle deep in a mountain creek, feeling how the water moves around your feet with perfect confidence in its destination. It doesn't pause to analyze the best route or worry about obstacles downstream. It simply flows, wearing smooth the stones that once seemed immovable, gradually reshaping the landscape through the gentle but inexorable power of sustained movement. Your inner waters carry this same transformative potential. The stream begins high in the mountains of your consciousness, gathering itself from the melting snows of insights and the small springs of moments when you've glimpsed something true. As it descends through the various levels of your being, it collects the mineral-rich deposits of your lived experience, not to carry them away forever, but to dissolve what has become crystallized, to restore flow where there has been stagnation. In your daily life, you've experienced this inner stream during moments of unexpected emotional release. Perhaps tears that came while watching a movie that touched something deep. Perhaps laughter that bubbled up from a source you couldn't identify. Perhaps the sense of cleansing that follows a good conversation with someone who really listened. This flowing presence has been available all along, waiting for you to stop damming it up with the stones of constant mental activity. Your shoulders have been holding back a particular tributary of this stream, the river of unexpressed care that you've been carrying for others. All the times you've worried about family members, felt concern for friends facing difficulties, or absorbed the emotional atmosphere of environments where others were struggling. This care is beautiful and necessary, but when it accumulates without flowing, it becomes a burden that weighs down the very love that inspired it. Feel how this shoulder stream can begin moving again, carrying your care downstream, not to wash it away, but to transform it from stagnant worry into flowing compassion. The difference is subtle but profound. Compassion moves like water, responsive and adaptive, while worry sits like a stone, heavy and unchanging. As this stream flows, your care for others becomes more effective because it's no longer mixed with the sediment of anxiety. Your chest contains another important waterway, the river of held emotions that you've been managing throughout the day. Every feeling that wasn't quite safe to express fully. Every response that needed to be filtered through social appropriateness. Every authentic reaction that had to be modified to fit the situation. This emotional river has been running underground beneath the surface of your conscious interactions. Now this chest stream can emerge into the open air of awareness, carrying these held emotions not toward dramatic expression but toward gentle integration. The frustration that you couldn't voice in that difficult meeting, the tenderness that felt too vulnerable to show, the excitement that seemed inappropriate to share, all can flow through this inner waterway that knows how to honor feeling without being overwhelmed by it. Consider how a river delta creates the richest soil, where the water's long journey finally spreads out into countless smaller channels that nourish vast areas of fertile ground. Your emotional stream creates this same kind of fertility as it flows through your inner landscape, transforming the raw material of feeling into the rich soil from which wisdom and compassion can grow. The waters of memory don't erase your experiences, but restore them to their natural state of flow. That conversation from earlier this week that keeps replaying in your mind, examining itself from different angles, it can be released into the current that carries it toward proper perspective. The decision you've been second-guessing, turning it over like a stone you can't stop examining, it too can be placed in these waters that know how to carry both confidence and uncertainty downstream. Your belly holds perhaps the deepest reservoir of these cleansing waters, the place where your most instinctual responses to life have been stored. Every moment today when your gut tried to tell you something but was overruled by your thinking mind, every intuitive response that was set aside in favor of more logical analysis, every body wisdom that was dismissed as impractical, all of this can flow freely now through the stream that honors all forms of knowing. What would it feel like to trust these inner waters completely, not to be carried away by emotional flood, but to recognize the difference between healthy flow and overwhelming surge? These memory waters move with the intelligence of a river that has carved canyons over millennia, powerful enough to reshape stone, gentle enough to nourish delicate ecosystems along its banks. The stream's sound becomes audible now, not to your ears, but to a deeper listening capacity. It whispers the ancient promise that nothing truly essential is ever lost, that what needs to be released will find its way to where it belongs, that what needs to remain will settle naturally into the quiet pools where memory becomes wisdom rather than burden. As these waters flow through every cell and tissue, they carry away the biochemical residue of stress and replace it with the clear circulation of restored vitality. Your bloodstream begins to remember its natural rhythm, no longer pushing against the resistance of held tension but flowing, with the ease of water that encounters no obstacles. The cleansing continues gently, preparing the way for descent into even deeper chambers of rest and recognition. The stairs that lead deeper into your inner temple are not made of stone or wood, but of surrender itself, each step a gentle letting go, each descent a movement toward the profound basement of your being, where the most ancient and essential parts of yourself have been waiting in patient stillness. These are not stairs you climb, but steps you sink into, allowing gravity to become your teacher in the art of profound rest. Like a diver moving through layers of ocean water, each level you descend reveals a different quality of depth and pressure. The surface waters of your consciousness, where thoughts move quickly and attention jumps from object to object, gradually give way to the slower currents of feeling, and then to the nearly motionless depths where awareness rests in its own pure presence, undisturbed by the waves that move far above. Your descent begins with the recognition that sinking is not falling. It is coming home to the foundation that has been supporting you all along. Each breath carries you deeper, not through effort, but through the natural settling that occurs when you stop resisting the downward pull of rest. Your body remembers how to be heavy in the most beautiful way, weighted with the substantial reality of flesh that no longer needs to fight against gravity's embrace. In your own experience, you've touched these deeper levels during moments of profound relaxation. Perhaps while floating in warm water, feeling how your body could be completely supported without any muscular effort. Perhaps during massage, when your habitual patterns of holding dissolved under skilled hands. Perhaps in deep meditation, when your sense of where you ended and the world began grew beautifully unclear. This descent follows the same natural law of release. The first level you encounter as you move inward is the realm of your nervous system, that intricate network that has been firing signals of alertness, response, and adaptation throughout the day. Here, in the deeper chambers of your temple, this magnificent system can finally shift from its vigilant, scanning for potential problems, to its equally important function of restoration and repair. Your nervous system remembers how to be a garden rather than a sentinel. Feel how your nerve pathways, which have been carrying messages of urgency and importance all day, can now transmit different information, signals of safety, communications of peace, the gentle electricity of a system that trusts its environment enough to lower its defenses. This neurological settling ripples through your entire body like a tuning fork that has found its perfect resonant frequency. Your muscular system forms the next layer of descent, those hundreds of individual muscles that have been coordinating in complex symphonies of movement and maintenance throughout your waking hours. Each muscle fiber has been contracting and releasing in service to your intentions, maintaining your posture, facilitating your gestures, supporting your participation in the physical world's demands for action and reaction. Now these faithful servants can rest in their natural length, no longer held in patterns of readiness or protection. Your jaw muscles, which have been managing the complex dance of speech and expression, can soften into wordless ease. Your shoulder muscles, which have been literally carrying the weight of responsibility, can remember what they felt like before they learned to bear such loads. Your back muscles can release their vigilant support of upright consciousness. Consider how a stringed instrument sounds different when its strings are gradually loosened, not going slack enough to lose their capacity for music, but releasing the excessive tension that creates harsh or brittle tones. Your muscular system undergoes this same kind of tuning as you descend, finding the perfect balance between aliveness and ease, between responsiveness and rest. The descent continues into the realm of your organs, those quiet workers that have been maintaining your life without fanfare or recognition. Your heart, which has been pumping with the steady reliability of the most devoted servant, can settle into its deepest rhythms of regeneration. Your liver, which has been processing the day's chemical complexity, can focus its intelligent work on restoration rather than simply managing incoming demands. Your digestive system, which has been transforming food into energy while simultaneously dealing with the biochemical effects of stress and emotion, can remember its more fundamental purpose, the alchemical transformation of matter into life force. In this deeper level of rest, digestion becomes not just a mechanical process, but a sacred act of turning the world's offerings into the substance of your continued existence. What would it mean to honor the profound intelligence of these organ systems that have been working on your behalf without conscious direction? They represent a wisdom far older than your thinking mind, a biological intelligence that has been refined through millions of years of evolutionary adaptation. In this descent, you can offer them your gratitude and trust their capacity to use this restorative time for the healing work that can only happen in deep rest. Your endocrine system, that network of glands that has been secreting the chemical messengers of your emotional and physical responses, can begin to shift from the hormonal patterns of activation and vigilance to the more restorative chemistry of peace and regeneration. Stress hormones that have been circulating through your bloodstream can be metabolized and replaced with the biochemistry of healing and renewal. The deepest level of this descent brings you to the cellular realm, where billions of individual cells that comprise your body have been carrying out their specialized functions in service to the larger organism that is you. Each cell has been breathing, metabolizing, communicating with its neighbors, participating in the vast collaborative project of maintaining a living human being. In this profound rest, cellular repair and regeneration can occur at the most fundamental level. As you reach this deepest basement of your being, you discover that descent is not about going down into darkness, but about sinking into the most essential light, the radiance of pure awareness that exists at the core of your being, unaffected by the surface movements of thought and emotion, constant as the light that exists in the heart of stars. This foundational awareness has been present throughout your entire life, the unchanging witness of all your changing experiences, the still center around which everything else revolves. The bell that rings in the deepest chamber of your temple speaks in frequencies below the range of ordinary hearing. Its sound felt more than heard, resonating through the crystalline structure of your bones, the liquid medium of your blood, the electrical pathways of your nervous system. This is not a bell cast in metal, but forged from silence itself, paradoxically creating sound through the profound absence of noise, teaching through emptiness rather than information. Each resonance of this invisible bell carries the accumulated wisdom of every moment you've ever paused, every breath you've ever taken consciously, every instant when you've stepped out of time's demanding current and into the eternal now that exists between seconds. The bell's teaching cannot be translated into words because it speaks the pre-verbal language of pure being, the first communication that existed before humans learned to separate reality into categories and concepts. Like the way a single drop of water creates expanding circles that reach every edge of a still pond. Each soundless chime of this inner bell sends ripples through every layer of your existence. Your cells respond with microscopic adjustments toward harmony. Your thoughts slow their restless parade and begin to move with the stately rhythm of deep wisdom. Your heart finds its own natural tempo, no longer hurried by the day's artificial urgencies. In your life's quieter moments, you've heard echoes of this bell's teaching, perhaps in the pause between lightning and thunder, when the world holds its breath in anticipation of sound. Perhaps in the moment just before dawn, when night hasn't quite released its hold but day hasn't yet claimed the sky. Perhaps in the space between words during meaningful conversation, when more truth passes in silence than could ever be spoken. This bell rings constantly in such threshold moments. The bell's first teaching is the difference between hearing and listening. All day your ears have been receiving sound, voices, traffic, machinery, the constant auditory stream of a world that has forgotten the value of quiet. But this inner bell teaches listening, the art of receiving silence with the same attention most people reserve for noise. In this quality of listening, space itself becomes sacred, pregnant with possibility. Consider how a master musician understands that the rests between notes are as essential as the notes themselves. That music emerges from the relationship between sound and silence rather than from sound alone. Your life has been all music today, filled with the notes of activity, conversation, and mental engagement. Now, the bell teaches you to appreciate the rests, the pauses where meaning lives, the spaces that give shape to everything else. Your breathing becomes the bell's first student, learning to move with the unhurried rhythm of eternity rather than the quick, shallow patterns of efficiency and response. Each inhale creates space for the bell's teaching to enter. Each exhale clears away the accumulated noise that has been interfering with your capacity to hear the deeper frequencies of existence. Your breath becomes both instrument and audience for this silent symphony. The bell rings through the chambers of your memory, not to awaken old stories, but to reveal the timeless awareness that has been present during every experience you've ever had. The child who learned to walk, the student who struggled with difficult lessons, the adult who has navigated relationships and responsibilities, all have been expressions of the same essential consciousness that now listens to this silent teaching. In the bell's resonance, you begin to understand that thinking and knowing are different frequencies. Thinking moves quickly, jumping from idea to idea, building elaborate structures of analysis and planning. Knowing rests in stillness, receiving truth through direct recognition rather than intellectual construction. The bell's teaching comes through this deeper channel of knowing, bypassing the mind's busy translator and speaking directly to the wisdom that lives in your bones. What would it mean to live more often in the frequency of this inner bell? Not to abandon thinking, which serves its own important purposes, but to remember that beneath all mental activity lies this deeper source of guidance, the still, small voice that speaks not in words, but in the subtle adjustments of intuition, the gentle corrections of instinct, the wordless knowledge that emerges when you create enough quiet to hear it. Your heart learns to beat in harmony with the bell's teaching, each pulse an affirmation of the mystery that keeps you alive without your conscious effort. The 100,000 heartbeats that will occur while you rest tonight become a form of prayer, a rhythmic devotion to the life force that animates your temporary form. Your heart remembers that it beats not just for your individual survival, but for your participation in the larger heartbeat of existence. The bell's teaching extends to your relationship with time itself. During the day, You've been moving through time like a swimmer fighting against a strong current, using effort to make progress toward various destinations. But the bell reveals time's other dimension, not the linear progression from past to future, but the eternal depth of the present moment, where all healing occurs, all love is experienced, all peace is found. In this bell-taught understanding of time, you discover that you don't have to rush toward rest. You can sink into it as gradually as autumn leaves falling to earth. You don't have to achieve peace through effort. You can recognize the peace that has been present all along, waiting patiently beneath the surface activity of your busy consciousness. The bell teaches patience, not as a virtue to be cultivated, but as a natural result of trusting the rhythm of your own unfolding. The silent sound continues to resonate through your being, each vibration loosening another knot of unnecessary tension, dissolving another layer of the separation between who you think you are and who you have always been. The bell rings in the space between thoughts, in the pause between heartbeats, in the eternal now that exists at the center of every moment. As its teaching deepens, you begin to understand that this bell has been ringing throughout your entire life, offering its wordless wisdom through every experience of genuine peace, every moment of effortless presence, every breath taken in gratitude rather than need. The doors you didn't know you had been guarding begin to open now, not with the dramatic swing of heavy portals, but with the gentle easing of barriers that have softened enough to dissolve. These are not physical doors, but the subtle boundaries you've maintained between your public self and your private truth, between the energy you give to the world and the tenderness you reserve for solitude, between the person you've learned to be and the essence you've always been. Like flowers that have been tightly budded through winter's protective season, these inner doors open with the natural timing of organic unfolding. You don't have to force them apart or analyze their construction. You simply have to stop bracing them shut. Stop using your energy to maintain the careful separations that once felt necessary for survival, but now restrict the natural circulation of your authentic aliveness. The door of your throat, which has been filtering every word through layers of consideration and social calculation, begins to relax its vigilant gatekeeping. Your voice, even in silence, settles into its natural register, not the carefully modulated tones of appropriate response, but the genuine resonance of a being who trusts that their truth is worthy of expression. This opening doesn't demand that you speak, only that you stop holding your authentic voice in protective custody. Behind your heart, there has been a door maintained by the accumulated wisdom of every time vulnerability led to hurt, every moment when openness was met with rejection or misunderstanding. This cardiac barrier has served its protective purpose, but now it can ease open just enough to allow your heart's natural expansion. Love flows more freely, not the strategic love that calculates return on investment, but the wild love that recognizes itself everywhere. In your daily experience, you felt glimpses of what happens when these inner doors open spontaneously, perhaps during moments of unexpected connection with a stranger, when usual boundaries dissolved and you felt the surprise of genuine recognition, perhaps while alone in nature, when the separation between inner and outer seemed arbitrary and you experienced yourself as part of something vast and interconnected. These openings follow the same organic principle now operating in your inner temple. Consider how a house comes alive when windows and doors are opened after a long season of being sealed against harsh weather. Fresh air circulates through rooms that have been breathing their own stale atmosphere. Light reaches corners that have been shadowed. The dwelling remembers its connection to the larger environment that surrounds and sustains it. Your inner architecture undergoes this same kind of seasonal opening as resistance gives way to receptivity. The door that has been guarding your belly wisdom, that deep instinctual knowing that speaks in sensations rather than concepts, begins to crack open all day. This gut intelligence has been sending subtle signals about people, situations, and decisions. But these messages have often been intercepted by the more socially acceptable guidance of rational analysis. Now these two forms of knowing can collaborate rather than compete. Your creative door, which may have been locked for months or years by the practical demands of adult responsibility, remembers how to swing open. The part of you that once played without agenda, imagined without limitation, and expressed without self-consciousness, stirs in its long dormancy. You don't have to become an artist to honor this creative essence. You only have to stop defending against the impractical beauty that wants to emerge through your unique way of being alive. What would it mean to live with more doors open, not to become boundaryless or inappropriately vulnerable, but to recognize the difference between healthy protection and habitual armoring? These inner doors are intelligent. They can open to what serves life and close to what threatens it. But when they've been locked too long in defensive positions, they lose their natural responsiveness and become rigid barriers that keep out nourishment along with danger. The door of your grief, which you've been keeping carefully sealed to maintain functionality in a world that has little patience for sorrow, begins to allow some circulation. This isn't an invitation to dramatic expression, but to gentle acknowledgement of the losses that are part of every human life, the dreams that didn't manifest, the relationships that changed or ended, the younger versions of yourself that had to be left behind as you grew. Grief, when it can flow rather than stagnate, becomes a form of love. Your wonder door, which may have been bolted shut by years of focusing on problems and responsibilities, starts to ease open. The part of you that can still be amazed by the fact that anything exists at all, that can be moved to reverence by the miracle of consciousness temporarily housed in matter, begins to stir. Wonder is not naivety, but the most sophisticated response to the genuine mystery of existence. In the opening of these doors, you discover that you are more spacious than you remembered. The personality you've been inhabiting is not a prison, but a house, and houses are meant to have doors and windows that open to let life flow through them. You are both the dweller and the dwelling, both the one who opens doors and the space that is revealed when barriers dissolve. The fear that has been maintaining some of these doors in locked positions begins to relax as it recognizes that opening doesn't mean losing control. It means discovering what happens when you stop trying to control everything. The energy that has been devoted to maintaining these internal barriers becomes available for other purposes, for creativity, for connection, for the simple enjoyment of being alive in a body that can feel pleasure as well as pain. As these doors continue their gentle opening, the air circulation in your inner temple improves dramatically. Stale emotions are refreshed by new currents of possibility. Old thoughts that have been circulating in closed loops find pathways toward resolution. The natural exchange between your inner life and the larger life that surrounds you begins to restore its healthy rhythm. You are becoming more porous in the most beautiful way, not defenseless, but responsive, not boundaryless, but naturally permeable to the love, beauty, and nourishment that have been waiting patiently for permission to enter your carefully guarded sanctuary. In the deepest silence of your inner temple sits a presence that has never spoken a word, yet has been teaching you your entire life. This is the monk of your own being, not a separate entity, but the wisest, most patient aspect of your consciousness. The part that has watched your entire story unfold with the same unshakable serenity that mountains bring to witnessing the changing seasons. This presence communicates not through instruction, but through embodiment, showing you what it looks like to exist without the constant commentary of judgment or need. Like a master calligrapher who can convey entire philosophies through the quality of a single brushstroke, this inner monk teaches through the eloquence of pure being. Their wisdom flows not in streams of advice or analysis, but in the living demonstration of what it means to be completely present without agenda, completely aware without grasping, completely peaceful without having resolved all of life's questions. You recognize this presence because you have encountered it in your life's quietest moments. Perhaps during illness, when your usual defenses were too tired to maintain themselves and you discovered an unexpected steadiness beneath the surface disruption. Perhaps during times of grief, when words felt inadequate and you found yourself held by something vast and wordless. Perhaps in moments of unexpected beauty, when thinking mind stepped aside and you simply received what was being offered. The monk's first teaching arrives through their posture, an absolute settling into what is, without the restless energy of wanting things to be different. Their spine maintains its natural curves, without the rigid straightness of forced discipline or the collapsed heaviness of defeat. This is the posture of profound acceptance, not as passive resignation, but as the active recognition that resistance creates more suffering than the original difficulty ever could. In your own body, you can feel this monastic wisdom beginning to express itself. Your shoulders, which have been hiking toward your ears all day in preparation for challenges that may never come, begin to settle into their natural position of alert ease. Your jaw, which has been clenched against words that wanted to be spoken but felt unsafe, softens into the slack-mouthed peace of someone who has temporarily set aside the burden of constant communication. Consider how this inner monk has been available throughout your entire life, offering their silent companionship during every experience, during childhood's enthusiasms and teenage confusion, during young adult ambition and middle-aged complexity. This steady presence has remained unchanged, not indifferent to your struggles, but unshaken by them, like a lighthouse that provides guidance without being disturbed by the storms it witnesses. The monk's eyes, if they can be imagined, hold the peculiar brightness of someone who has seen everything and found it all fascinating rather than overwhelming. They have witnessed your moments of brilliant clarity and your periods of complete confusion with the same quality of patient attention. Your successes and failures, your kindnesses and mistakes, your courage and your fears, all have been equally interesting to this inner witness, who understands that every experience serves the larger purpose of learning what it means to be human. Their silence is not the absence of communication, but the presence of a deeper language. The wordless transmission that occurs between beings who recognize their fundamental kinship. In this monk's presence, you remember what it feels like to be completely understood without having to explain anything, completely accepted without having to prove your worthiness, completely loved without having to earn or maintain that love through performance. The monk teaches patience, not as a virtue to be cultivated, but as the natural result of trusting time's wisdom. They have watched your entire life unfold and understand that everything has arrived exactly when it was supposed to, that every delay served a purpose, that every seeming detour was actually part of the most direct path to wherever you needed to go. This perspective doesn't make current difficulties disappear, but it places them in a larger context that transforms suffering into growing. What would it mean to consult this inner monk more often during your daily life? Not to escape from responsibility or action, but to remember the source of wise action, the still place from which authentic response arises naturally, without the frantic energy of reactivity or the heavy burden of having to figure everything out through mental effort alone. Your breathing becomes synchronized with the monk's natural rhythm, not the quick, shallow breathing of someone trying to keep up with external demands, but the deep, unhurried breathing of someone who has all the time in the world because they have learned to inhabit eternity within each moment. This change in breath quality sends signals throughout your nervous system that it's safe to move from survival mode into the more expansive mode of thriving. The monk's presence reveals the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness seeks external connection to fill an internal void. Solitude discovers the fullness that has always been present when you stop running from your own company. In this inner solitude, you are never truly alone because you are in the company of the most understanding friend you could ever hope to find, the aspect of yourself that has never forgotten your essential goodness. Their wordless teaching extends to your relationship with difficulty itself. The monk has learned that problems are not obstacles to peace, but opportunities for deeper understanding. That challenges are not punishments, but invitations to discover resources you didn't know you possessed. This doesn't make difficulties pleasant, but it transforms them from meaningless suffering into meaningful growing. In the monk's presence, your mind begins to understand its proper role, not as the manager of everything, but as one instrument in a larger orchestra of intelligence that includes intuition, instinct, emotional wisdom, and the body's profound knowing. Your thoughts continue to arise, but they no longer carry the frantic urgency of believing they must solve everything immediately. They become clouds passing through the vast sky of awareness rather than storms that threaten to overwhelm the landscape. The monk's final teaching is the recognition that they have never been separate from you. This wise, patient, deeply peaceful presence is not something you must develop or achieve. It is what you are when you stop being anything else. It is your original face, as the old masters called it, the expression you wore before you learned to arrange your features for the world's expectations. This recognition dawns not through dramatic revelation, but through gentle settling, like sediment in disturbed water, gradually clarifying to reveal the pristine clarity that was always there, temporarily obscured but never actually contaminated. There comes a moment in every journey toward rest when effort transforms into grace, when the deliberate practice of letting go gives way to the effortless experience of being held. This is gravity's gentle teaching, not the harsh pull that brings things crashing down, but the tender invitation that allows weary bodies to settle into the arms of earth with the trust of children, falling asleep against their mother's chest. Your body has been working against gravity all day, maintaining its upright stance through countless micro-adjustments of muscle and bone, negotiating with the constant downward pull that defines existence in physical form. Now, in this sacred surrender, you can finally collaborate with this fundamental force rather than resist it, discovering that what you've been fighting is actually the most supportive presence in your material existence. Like a leaf that has completed its season of photosynthesis and service to the tree, you can release your grip on the branch of wakefulness and allow yourself to spiral downward in the most beautiful way, not falling into unconsciousness, but settling into a deeper layer of consciousness, one that requires no maintenance from your vigilant attention, no effort from your determined will. Think of how water finds its level without struggle, flowing naturally from higher ground to lower ground until it comes to rest in perfect equilibrium. Your entire being seeks this same natural settling, this organic movement from the elevated tensions of daily consciousness toward the level ground of fundamental peace. This is not collapse, but arrival, the recognition of where you truly belong. In your lived experience, you've touched this quality of supported surrender during moments of complete physical relaxation. Perhaps while receiving skilled bodywork, when trained hands convinced your muscles that it was safe to stop their vigilant holding. Perhaps while floating in warm water, when buoyancy demonstrated that support could come from sources other than your own effort. Perhaps during fever dreams, when your usual control mechanisms were offline and you discovered a different kind of intelligence taking care of essential functions, your skeleton, that remarkable framework that has been bearing the architectural load of your upright existence, can finally remember its original purpose, not just support, but also receptivity. Bones are not rigid beams, but living tissue, constantly remodeling themselves in response to the demands placed upon them. In this profound rest, they can focus their intelligence on regeneration rather than simply maintaining structural integrity under stress. Feel how your skull, which has been carrying the weight of countless thoughts and decisions, can rest completely against whatever supports it. The muscles of your scalp, which have been unconsciously contracting in response to mental tension, can spread like gentle fingers releasing their grip on precious objects they no longer need to protect. Your head, that command center of conscious activity, can trust that essential functions will continue without its supervisory oversight. Your ribcage, which has been expanding and contracting in service to breath for every moment of your life, can settle into its deepest rhythms of restoration. The intercostal muscles between your ribs, which have been working constantly to facilitate the bellows action of breathing, can find their natural resting length. Your chest becomes a spacious cathedral where breath moves with the unhurried rhythm of prayers offered in complete faith. Consider how a master gardener knows when to stop cultivating and allow the natural processes of growth and rest to take over. Your consciousness can learn this same wisdom, recognizing when active effort has served its purpose and it's time to trust the deeper intelligence that operates below the threshold of deliberate control. This isn't laziness, but the most refined form of efficiency, allowing life to live itself through you. Gravity teaches your spine to release its habitual curve of readiness, that subtle arch that has been prepared all day for the next demand. the next responsibility, the next need for upright engagement with the world's requirements. Your vertebrae can settle into their most natural alignment, each disc finding its optimal spacing, each joint releasing the compression that accumulates through hours of bearing not just physical weight but the invisible burden of constant decision-making. Your pelvis, that foundational bowl which has been the stable platform for all your upright activities, can sink into complete support. The deep muscles of your core, which have been maintaining the complex coordination required for bipedal existence, can finally stand down from their posts like guards ending a long shift, knowing that their vigilance is no longer required. What would it mean to trust gravity completely, not just as a physical force, but as a metaphor for the larger intelligence that supports your existence? The mysterious coordination that keeps your heart beating, your cells dividing, your immune system responding to threats you never consciously detect. This same supportive presence that maintains your body's countless functions can be trusted to hold your entire being while you rest. Your arms, which have been reaching and grasping all day, reaching for door handles and reaching for solutions, grasping objects and grasping concepts, can finally remember what they feel like when they're not trying to accomplish anything. They can hang with the natural grace of tree branches that support their own weight effortlessly, or rest with the complete abandonment of a child's arms during deep sleep. The transformation from effort to grace occurs gradually, like the way twilight doesn't arrive all at once but emerges through subtle degrees of darkening. Your nervous system, which has been firing in patterns of alertness and response, begins to shift toward the slower rhythms of regeneration and repair. Stress hormones that have been circulating in your bloodstream are gradually metabolized and replaced with the biochemistry of restoration. Gravity's final teaching is about surrender without defeat, sinking without drowning, letting go without losing what truly matters. In this complete physical surrender, you don't become less than you were, but more spacious, more peaceful, more connected to the fundamental forces that have been supporting you all along, usually without your conscious recognition or gratitude. As your body settles into this profound support, you begin to understand that you have never actually been holding yourself up through your own power alone. The earth has been supporting you, the air has been breathing you, the vast intelligence of your biological systems has been maintaining your life. Now you can rest in conscious recognition of this support that has always been present, waiting for you to stop trying so hard and allow yourself to be held. At the center of your inner temple lies an altar that was never built by human hands, never consecrated by formal ceremony, yet remains the most sacred space you will ever encounter. This invisible altar exists in the profound stillness where all seeking ends and pure being begins, where you discover that what you've been searching for throughout your entire life has been quietly waiting in the place you never thought to look. The simple fact of your own aware presence, complete and whole, exactly as it is. This altar is not adorned with candles or flowers, not decorated with symbols or artifacts from spiritual traditions. It is furnished only with the essential elements of existence itself: breath flowing without effort, heart beating without instruction, consciousness aware of its own aliveness without needing to understand how such a miracle is possible. Here, in this most intimate sanctuary, nothing is missing because nothing was ever truly absent. Like the eye of a hurricane that remains perfectly still while tremendous forces swirl around it. This altar space exists in the calm center of your being, untouched by the daily storms of emotion, unchanged by the weather patterns of thought, unaffected by the seasonal cycles of your life's external circumstances. It has been present during your moments of greatest joy and deepest sorrow, equally available during times of clarity and periods of confusion. You approach this altar not through pilgrimage to a distant location, but through the gentle recognition that you have been standing on sacred ground throughout. Your entire existence, every breath you've ever taken, has been an offering made at this altar. Every moment of genuine presence has been a prayer spoken in the wordless language that this sanctuary understands. Every act of kindness has been a flower placed upon its invisible surface. In your life's quietest moments, you've sensed the presence of this altar space. Perhaps during meditation, when the busy activities of your mind settled into profound stillness and you discovered the vast spaciousness that exists beneath all mental movement. Perhaps while holding a sleeping child, when your own awareness became so absorbed in love that the boundaries between giver and receiver dissolved. Perhaps in nature, when the beauty before you was so complete that thinking stopped and you simply received what was being offered. The altar reveals that you are both the worshipper and the worshipped, both the seeker and the sought, both the question and the answer that has been waiting patiently for the question to be asked with sufficient stillness to hear the response. This is not narcissism, but the deepest humility, the recognition that the divine presence you've been seeking in external forms has been the very awareness through which you've been doing the seeking. Your breathing becomes the altar's most constant offering, not the controlled breathing of meditation technique, but the natural respiration of a being who has remembered how to receive life as a gift rather than grasping it as an achievement. Each inhale draws in more than oxygen. It receives the universe's generosity. Each exhale releases more than carbon dioxide. It offers gratitude for the privilege of temporarily housing consciousness in flesh. Consider how this altar has been receiving your offerings throughout your entire life without your conscious recognition. Every moment when you've paused to notice beauty, every instant when you've felt genuine appreciation, every breath taken in wonder rather than worry, all have been unconscious acts of devotion at this invisible shrine that honors the mystery of existence itself. The altar space reveals the profound ordinariness of the sacred, not the sacred that requires special conditions, extraordinary experiences, or elevated states of consciousness, but the sacred that exists in the simple fact that anything exists at all. The miracle is not that occasionally something special happens, but that the ordinary world continues its patient dance of existence, moment after moment, breath after breath, heartbeat after heartbeat. Your heart becomes synchronized with the altar's timeless rhythm, beating not just for the circulation of blood, but for the sheer joy of participation in the cosmic pulse that animates all life. Each heartbeat becomes a drumbeat in the ancient ceremony that has been continuing since the first heart began to beat, will continue until the last heart falls silent, and somehow continues even beyond the realm of individual hearts into the eternal rhythm that underlies all manifestation. What would it mean to live from this altar space more consistently? Not to abandon the practical world of relationships and responsibilities, but to remember the sacred context within which all activity occurs. to recognize that every conversation is a form of communion, every task is a form of service, every breath is a form of prayer offered at the invisible altar that travels with you wherever you go. The altar teaches the difference between being religious and being conscious. Religion often seeks the sacred in specific forms, practices, and beliefs. Consciousness discovers the sacred in the very capacity to be aware, regardless of what that awareness contains. This altar belongs to no tradition, yet honors them all, speaks no doctrine, yet embodies all wisdom, requires no faith, yet naturally evokes the deepest reverence. In this altar space, time reveals its true nature, not as a river flowing from past to future, but as an eternal present moment, deep enough to contain all of history and vast enough to encompass all possibility. Past and future exist only as concepts arising within this present awareness. Memory and anticipation are simply present moment activities of a consciousness that has never actually left the eternal now. Your entire body becomes an extension of this altar space, every cell a shrine, every breath an offering, every heartbeat an expression of gratitude for the inexplicable gift of being alive in a universe that somehow organized itself in such a way that matter could become conscious of itself. You are the universe's way of experiencing its own existence from the inside. The cosmos temporarily gathered into human form to look out through human eyes at its own infinite creativity. The altar's deepest teaching is that nothing needs to be added to this moment for it to be complete. Not more peace, not less stress, not different circumstances, not improved understanding. The perfection you've been seeking exists in the simple recognition of what is already present, aware, presence itself. The consciousness that has been constant throughout every changing experience of your life. Here, at this invisible altar where nothing is missing, you can finally rest in the profound ordinariness of being exactly who and where you are. Breathing in a body that knows how to breathe, aware in a consciousness that has never stopped being aware, held by a love that requires no justification, no earning, no maintaining, only recognition. The sky that you truly are has been waiting patiently beneath the clouds of personality, the weather patterns of emotion, the atmospheric disturbances of daily thought. Now, as the final veils of separation dissolve like morning mist touched by gentle sunlight, you begin to recognize your original nature, not the small self that has been navigating the world's complexities, but the vast awareness in which all experience appears and disappears, like waves arising and settling back into an ocean of infinite peace. This sky consciousness has no edges, no boundaries, no place where it begins or ends. It is not contained within your body, but contains your body, not limited by your lifetime, but encompassing all lifetimes. Not defined by your thoughts, but providing the spacious context within which all thoughts arise and fade. You are not becoming this sky, you are remembering that you have always been this boundless. Awareness temporarily dreaming itself into human form. Like the way space allows all objects to exist within it, while remaining unaffected by their appearance or disappearance. Your essential nature provides the open context within which all experiences occur while never being changed by their content. Joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, success and failure, all are equally welcome, whether patterns moving through the unchanging sky of your deepest being. in the profound stillness that now surrounds and fills you. The distinction between inner and outer begins to reveal its arbitrary nature. The breath breathing you is the same air that moves through trees. The awareness, aware of these words, is the same consciousness that looks out through every pair of eyes. The love that has been seeking itself throughout your entire life is the same love that holds galaxies in their courses and atoms in their dance. Your individual story, with its unique collection of memories, relationships, challenges, and achievements, becomes like a single wave, recognizing its inseparable connection to the ocean. The wave doesn't disappear or become less itself. It simply realizes that its apparent separation was never real, that it has always been ocean expressing itself in wave form, water playing at being water in countless creative variations. The breath that has been your constant companion throughout this journey into rest now moves with the rhythm of eternity itself. Each inhalation draws in the infinite space that surrounds all existence. Each exhalation releases you more completely into the vastness that you are. Breathing becomes not something you do, but something that does itself through the temporary form that others call by your name. Think of how clouds appear to be solid from a distance, but reveal themselves to be mostly space when observed more closely. Your sense of being a solid, separate self undergoes this same transformation as you settle into sky consciousness. What seemed dense and defined reveals itself to be mostly emptiness. Not empty in the sense of lacking anything, but empty in the sense of being pure potential, unlimited by fixed form or definition. Your heart beats now with the pulse of universal love, not the conditional love that depends on circumstances or the personal love that flows towards specific objects, but the unconditional love that is the very fabric of existence, the fundamental force that holds all apparent opposites in perfect balance. This love requires no object because it recognizes itself as the source from which all apparent objects arise. The temple you have been exploring throughout this journey is revealed to be the universe itself, and you are both its most devoted pilgrim and its most essential architecture. Every star is a candle lit at your altar. Every sunset is a teaching offered by your inner monk. Every breath taken by every living being is an offering made in your sacred space. In this recognition, all seeking naturally comes to rest. Not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you have discovered that you are what you were looking for. The peace you've been pursuing has been the peace you are. The love you've been seeking has been the love that you are. The home you've been trying to reach has been your own deepest nature all along. Your body rests now as a beloved instrument temporarily on loan from the earth, soon to be returned to the elements from which it was borrowed. But the consciousness that has been looking out through its eyes continues in the eternal present that has no beginning and no end. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. You are not under the sky. You are the sky itself, temporarily gathered into human form to experience its own infinite nature from this particular vantage point. Time reveals its ultimate secret. It exists only in the mind that divides the eternal now into artificial segments of past and future. In sky consciousness, there is only this eternal moment, deep enough to contain all of history, vast enough to encompass all possibility. You rest now in this timeless present, where nothing has ever been broken that needs fixing. Nothing has ever been lost that needs finding. Nothing has ever been absent that needs acquiring. The silence that surrounds you is not empty but full, pregnant with every word that has never needed to be spoken, rich with every song that has never needed to be sung, complete with every prayer that has never needed to be uttered, because the very existence of consciousness is itself the answer to every question, the fulfillment of every longing, the completion of every search. As you settle into this final recognition, even the concept of settling dissolves, because there is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, no one to become. You rest in the profound ordinariness of being exactly what you have always been, pure awareness, temporarily appearing as a human being, soon to return to the formless source from which all forms arise and to which all forms return. Over and over, in the eternal play of consciousness, exploring its own infinite creativity, you are the sky. You are the quiet between stars. You are the breath of space itself, still, infinite, whole. In this recognition, all questions dissolve into pure presence. All seeking ends in simple being. All journey concludes in the recognition that you never left home. Sleep finds you now not as unconsciousness, but as the deepest consciousness, awareness so complete it needs no objects, love so full it requires no expression, peace so profound it surpasses all understanding. You rest as what you are and have always been, the eternal sky in which all dreams arise and all dreams fade, the unchanging awareness in which all stories unfold, the infinite love that appears as countless forms while never losing its essential, formless nature. Here, in the invisible temple of your own being, surrounded by the infinite sky of consciousness itself, held by the love that you are, you can finally rest completely, not as escape from life, but as return to life's deepest truth. Nothing is missing. Nothing was ever missing. You are home. Beyond the recognition of sky consciousness lies not emptiness, but fullness. The discovery that being infinite doesn't mean being absent, but being present everywhere at once. You rest now in the paradox of ultimate vastness and intimate tenderness, where the same awareness that encompasses galaxies also knows the exact temperature of your breath, the precise weight of your eyelids, the gentle rhythm of your heart's faithful drumming. Like morning dew that appears to be countless separate droplets until the sun reveals them all as expressions of the same moisture. Your individual experience of being human continues while revealing itself as one movement of the eternal dance. You don't lose your personal story. You discover the cosmic context within which every personal story unfolds, finding your own narrative suddenly luminous with meaning that extends far beyond its apparent boundaries. Your body has become a translator for this infinite awareness, converting the abstract truth of boundless consciousness into the concrete poetry of sensation. Each breath is cosmic intelligence expressing itself through human lungs. Each heartbeat is universal love pulsing through individual cardiac muscle. The softness of your lips, the curve of your spine, the gentle weight of your hands, all become the infinite's way of experiencing what it means to be temporarily gathered into human form. In your own life, you've sensed this cosmic intimacy during moments of profound beauty that seemed to recognize you personally, perhaps while watching ocean waves that felt like they were moving just for your eyes, perhaps while listening to music that seemed composed specifically for your heart. Perhaps during embraces that felt like the universe itself was holding you. This same quality of infinite tenderness now pervades every cell of your resting body. Consider how a mother's love for her child is both completely personal and mysteriously impersonal, arising from the deepest individual connection while drawing upon a love that seems to come from beyond the personal self entirely. Your relationship with existence itself carries this same paradox. Simultaneously intimate and cosmic, individually experienced and universally sourced. The evening air that moves across your skin carries messages from every place it has traveled, over mountains and oceans, through forests and cities, past the breath of countless other beings who are also finding their way toward rest. You breathe in the exhalations of trees on distant continents, the sighs of lovers in other time zones, the patient breathing of children already deep in dreams. Your individual breath participates in the planetary respiratory system. Your dreams, when they come, will not be merely personal fantasies, but expressions of the collective human imagination, the same creative force that has inspired every work of art, every scientific discovery, every moment of unexpected insight throughout history. Tonight you become both dreamer and dream, both the artist and the canvas upon which cosmic creativity expresses itself through the peculiar medium of human sleep. The stars that shine above you are not distant objects, but fellow expressions of the same cosmic intelligence that animates your breathing body. They burn with the same essential fire that maintains your cellular metabolism, follow the same fundamental laws that govern your heartbeat, participate in the same vast organizing principle that coordinates the trillion synchronized functions that keep you alive without your conscious management. What would it mean to fall asleep, not as an individual withdrawing from the world, but as the universe temporarily closing one set of eyes while remaining awake through countless others? Your rest becomes not escape from cosmic responsibility, but participation in the larger rhythm by which existence itself alternates between activity and restoration, expansion and contraction, waking and sleeping. The recognition that you are both human and cosmic doesn't create conflict, but reveals the profound compatibility between the personal and the universal. Your need for rest is simultaneously your individual nervous system's requirement for restoration and the cosmos's own need to experience what peace feels like through human consciousness. Your dreams will be both privately yours and universally shared. As this expanded understanding settles through your awareness like honey through warm milk, your breathing naturally synchronizes with rhythms larger than your individual respiratory system. You breathe with the tides, with the seasonal cycles, with the slow pulse of geological time, while still breathing the immediate breath that serves your particular body's needs in this particular moment. The temple you've been exploring reveals its ultimate secret. It was never separate from the cosmos that contains it. The walls you discovered were made of awareness itself. The altar was constructed from pure presence. The monk was the universe's own wisdom wearing a temporary form. Now, these boundaries dissolve not into confusion, but into the clarity of seeing how the personal and infinite have always been one movement appearing as two. Your individual story continues, but now it's transparent to the larger story of which it has always been a part, the story of consciousness. exploring its own nature through the temporary forms of galaxies and atoms, mountains and humans, dreams and waking states. Tonight you rest as both character and author, both wave and ocean, both the human who needs sleep and the awareness in which all sleep and waking occurs. In the deeper chambers of cosmic rest, you discover that sleep itself is not unconsciousness, but the most intimate form of consciousness. Awareness so complete it no longer needs objects to be aware of. Love so full it requires no recipients. Peace so profound it includes, rather than excludes, all possible disturbance. This is not the sleep of escape, but the sleep of ultimate embrace, where you rest not from life, but as life itself, temporarily pausing to remember its own essence. Like a master musician who can play complex compositions so effortlessly, the technique becomes invisible and only pure music remains. Your consciousness now rests so completely in its own nature that all the apparatus of thinking, analyzing, and maintaining a separate self becomes transparent. You continue to be aware, but awareness no longer has to work to be aware. It simply rests in its own natural luminosity. The darkness behind your closed eyelids is not empty but pregnant with infinite potential. Like the darkness of rich soil from which all growth emerges, or the darkness of the womb from which all life is born. This is not the absence of light, but the presence of the source from which all light comes, the creative darkness that contains every possibility before it manifests into form. Your journey through the invisible temple has prepared you for this ultimate recognition that the temple was never a place you visited, but the very nature of consciousness itself. Every breath you've taken tonight has been worship at the altar of existence. Every moment of letting go has been a prayer offered in the universal language of surrender. Every heartbeat has been a devotional drumbeat in the eternal ceremony of being alive. In your sleep, the boundaries between dreamer and dreamed become beautifully unclear. Are you the one having dreams, or are you a dream being dreamed by the cosmos? Are your nighttime visions personal creations, or are you temporarily becoming transparent to the collective imagination of all sleeping beings? These questions dissolve into the more fundamental recognition that dreaming is one of the ways the universe experiences its own creativity. Think of how rivers lose their individual identity when they merge with the ocean, yet somehow enhance rather than diminish the ocean's fullness. Your individual consciousness undergoes this same paradoxical transformation as you surrender into sleep, remaining distinctly yourself while simultaneously becoming transparent to the universal awareness that dreams all dreams, breathes all breath, loves all love. Your body has become a perfect instrument for this cosmic sleep. Every muscle precisely calibrated to its optimal resting state. Every organ functioning in harmony with the greatest symphony of restoration that governs all biological systems. Your cells undertake their nighttime work of repair and regeneration as part of the same creative intelligence that reforms mountains through erosion, reshapes coastlines through tides, and renews forests through seasonal cycles. The memories of today's experiences, which once seemed so personally significant, now reveal themselves as temporary costumes worn by the eternal consciousness that you are. The conversations, decisions, and encounters that filled your waking hours were all expressions of the universe exploring its own possibilities through the unique perspective of your individual awareness. Tonight, these experiences are composted into wisdom through the mysterious alchemy of sleep. Consider how the ocean simultaneously contains every wave while remaining unchanged by their appearance and disappearance. Your essential nature maintains this same relationship to all experiences, completely present to each moment of joy and sorrow, success and failure, clarity and confusion, while remaining fundamentally unaffected by their temporary dance across the surface of awareness. Your breath now moves with the rhythm of cosmic respiration, the vast inhale and exhale by which existence itself expands into form and contracts back into formless potential. Each personal breath you take participates in this universal breathing, drawing in not just oxygen but the very essence of life itself, releasing not just carbon dioxide but offering gratitude for the privilege of temporary participation in the cosmic dance. What would it mean to dream not as an isolated individual processing personal material, but as a temporary aperture through which the universe dreams itself? Your sleeping consciousness becomes a portal through which the collective wisdom of all life forms can express itself in the symbolic language of dreams. Every image that appears in your sleep is simultaneously personally meaningful and universally significant. The love that surrounds you now is not directed toward you from some external source, but is the very fabric from which your existence is woven. You rest in love, not as something you have or receive, but as what you fundamentally are, the universe's own capacity for love, temporarily concentrated into human form, soon to return to its source, while enriching that source with everything learned through your unique perspective. Time reveals its final secret as you settle into this cosmic sleep. It exists only as the rhythm by which the eternal dances with itself, creating the appearance of sequence and duration within what is actually a single, eternal moment. Your entire lifetime is one breath in the cosmic respiratory system, one note in an infinite symphony, one brushstroke in a painting that has no beginning or end. The silence that embraces you is not empty, but full of every sound that has ever been made or ever could be made, resting in their perfect source. The darkness that welcomes you is not void but contains every form of light, including the light of awareness itself. The peace that receives you is not static but dynamically includes all possible movement, while remaining forever undisturbed at its core. As you dissolve into this cosmic sleep, you don't disappear but expand to include everything, every star burning in distant galaxies, every grain of sand on every beach, every breath being breathed by every living being, every dream being dreamed by every sleeping consciousness. You rest as the awareness in which all experience occurs, the love in which all beings find their home, the peace that passeth all understanding. Beyond all seeking, beyond all finding, beyond the very concepts of sleeping and waking, you arrive at the ultimate destination that was never elsewhere, the simple fact of being, without qualification, without story, without beginning or end. Here, in this final settling, even the notion of reaching somewhere dissolves into the recognition that you have never moved from the source of your own existence, never been separate from the wholeness you thought you were seeking. This is the sleep beneath sleep, the rest beneath rest, the profound stillness that exists at the heart of all movement. It is not achieved through effort or arrived at through journey. but revealed through the complete relaxation of the one who has been trying to achieve and arrive. In this ultimate letting go, you discover what has always been present, pure being, aware of itself, needing nothing, lacking nothing, complete in its own infinite simplicity. Like the way silence exists between musical notes, giving them space to be heard, this fundamental awareness exists between all experiences, providing the open context within which thoughts, feelings, sensations, and dreams can appear and disappear without disturbing the underlying peace. You rest now as this silence itself, this spaciousness itself, this awareness that has room for everything and resistance to nothing. The breath that has carried you through this entire journey now breathes itself, requiring no attention, no management, no conscious participation. It moves with the effortless rhythm of existence itself, the same intelligence that causes flowers to bloom, rivers to flow, and planets to orbit in perfect harmony. Your breathing becomes indistinguishable from the breathing of the cosmos, your heartbeat inseparable from the pulse of existence itself. In your deepest rest, the difference between inner and outer completely dissolves. The air you breathe is not separate from your lungs. The love you are is not different from the love that surrounds you. The awareness that knows these words is identical to the awareness that is dreaming the universe into being moment by moment. You are not in the world is appearing in you, as you, through you. Your body has become completely transparent to the life force that animates it. Every cell rests in perfect alignment with the intelligence that maintains galaxies and atoms with equal precision. Your muscles release their final holding not into limpness, but into the dynamic relaxation of a system that has remembered how to be effortlessly alive. Your bones rest with the density of earth. Your blood flows with the fluidity of water. Your breath moves with the freedom of air. Your awareness burns with the clarity of fire. Think of how the ocean floor exists in perfect stillness while supporting all the movement of surface waves and currents. Your consciousness rests at this oceanic depth, undisturbed by any weather that may move through the surface layers of dreaming or thinking. This depth is not a place you go to, but what you have always been, the still foundation upon which all experience dances. The stories that have defined your life, the challenges overcome, the relationships cherished, the dreams pursued, the fears faced all settle into their proper perspective, as temporary waves on the surface of an ocean that remains forever unchanged by their appearance. Your personal history becomes transparent to the timeless presence that has been constant throughout every moment of change and growth. What remains when all stories end, when all seeking stops, when all questions dissolve into the silence from which they arose? Only this, the pure fact of being aware and at peace, complete in itself, needing nothing, asking nothing, simply present as the very source from which all experience emerges and to which it returns. You rest as this source itself, no longer seeking it but being it. In this ultimate rest, healing happens not through doing but through being. Every cell in your body receives exactly what it needs from the inexhaustible wellspring of life force that flows through beings who have remembered their true nature. Restoration occurs naturally when the one who thought they needed to be restored recognizes their inherent wholeness. Peace descends when the one who is seeking peace realizes they are peace itself. Your dreams, when they come, will arise like bubbles in champagne, spontaneous expressions of the creative joy that existence takes in its own infinite potential. But whether you dream or rest in dreamless sleep, whether your body moves through natural sleep cycles or remains in profound stillness, you rest always as the unchanging awareness in which all states of consciousness appear and dissolve. The love that you are needs no object because it recognizes itself everywhere. The peace that you are needs no protection because nothing can disturb its fundamental stillness. The joy that you are needs no reason because it is the very nature of existence itself. The universe's celebration of its own inexplicable aliveness expressing itself through your temporary human form. As this recognition completes itself, even the need to recognize dissolves into simple being. You are not someone who has realized something. You are the realization itself, the awakening itself, the peace itself, that never needed to be found because it was never lost. You rest as what you have always been beneath every experience, beyond every state, prior to every thought. In this final dissolution, you don't fall asleep. Sleep falls away to reveal the awareness that has been present through every state of consciousness, the love that has been constant through every experience of separation, the peace that has been available in every moment of struggle. You rest as the source itself, birthless, deathless, infinite, and eternally at peace. This is not the end, but the recognition of what has no beginning or ending, pure being, aware of itself as all that is, resting in its own infinite nature, dreaming worlds into existence and breathing them back into the formless source from which they never truly departed. The journey ends where it began, in the simple miracle of being aware, being alive, being the universe's own love, looking out through human eyes, then gently closing those eyes to rest in the source of all seeing. You are home. You have always been home.